You ever wonder what separates some real estate agents that succeed at really high levels while 70% of them didn't even sell a single home last year? It's simple. It's because real estate licensing school teaches you how to pass a test. It doesn't teach you how to build a successful real estate business. Welcome to What They Don't Teach You at Real Estate Licensing School. I'm Anthony Delicandro, real estate broker, coach, and your host here. In this first episode, I'm joined by longtime friend Sky Michaels, a former high school teacher turned top producing agent and leader in our industry. And we talk about what actually creates long-term success in real estate. It's consistency, protecting your focus, leveraging technology wisely, and knowing when you're ready to scale. Now, if you're serious about building a career and not just holding a license, you're in the right place. Let's get into it.
Sky, welcome to What They Don't Teach You at Real Estate Licensing School. I am super excited. This is episode 1, and I couldn't think of a better guest to jump on. I'm super excited that you were willing to share this time with me and help teach some of our growing and the experiences that we've had together. Help teach this, big community of agents that are trying to figure out not just the craziness of this market we've been in these last couple of years, but the industry and the business in general, and how to treat this and make this an effective career and business long term, not just something they're signing up for short term. So welcome. Thank you for joining me, and tell me, I know obviously a lot of your backstory, and one of the things I was excited about was we definitely have a lot of parallels in our own experiences personally, but share a little bit about backstory and how you got here.
Well, first off, I'm really grateful to be on, and being the beginning of anything is such a special time. So the fact that this is episode 1 and the beginning of your journey in this podcast world is it's so cool. I can't wait to see where this thing goes. So, I'll give you my quick background. I grew up in Poughkeepsie, New York. I promise I'll make this quick. I grew up poor. So at the age of 12, I had a paper route, and I sort of joke around that I've been an entrepreneur since the age of 12. Long story short, go to college. I knew very early on I was going to be a teacher. So I graduated from college. I was a high school history teacher, all excited. And I very quickly realized, even though I had a master's degree and a great job, I was still poor. So I got into real estate way back in 2002, accidentally, just thinking I was going to sell 3 to 4 homes a year, make a little extra money, teach full time, sell real estate part time. And to make a long story short, I got into it and just fell in love with the industry. Right. I just fell in love with the process of helping people buy and sell. I think the being in that entrepreneurial space, it was something that was so special to me.
Right.
And so after doing it part time, quote unquote, for 3 years, I finally went full time. And
right.
In 2005, and the rest is sort of history from there. So that's how I sort of got started, and brings back great memories of real estate school, Poley and Associates, 2002, right. Going through it and learning all these things that to this day, that was the beginning, episode 1, so to speak, of my real estate.
Right. Yeah, that's it's funny. It even aligns another kind of connected dot that I hadn't thought about. One on that upbringing. I had a similar. I grew up in Fishtown, before Fishtown was the cool kind of hip place it was today, and so very similar experience. And I had the good fortune of being exposed. Right, I grew up in Fishtown, and then I went to a private school in the Main Line. Yeah. Right. So saw both ends of the spectrum. Yeah. And that was a lot of it. Those exposures created a lot of the experiences that I then wanted to build and grow within. Yeah. The teacher background, which obviously I knew, it's amazing, and I didn't think about it until just now. A lot of close friends in my own community throughout the years, I've run into a lot that have had teaching backgrounds. Yeah. And I always recognized that it was such a great transition. The ones that became really great real estate agents. Yep. And I think the reality is, in my mind, one of the fundamentals that I embrace, that I try to talk to new agents about, is that this is a responsibility, right? Getting that license it's not a privilege to do deals and get checks. It's nope. We play a massive role in a huge event in someone's life. That's a responsibility. And when you're coming from a teaching background, you get that. That's in your DNA. It is. the care, the compassion, the treatment, that this is like a human's life that you're shaping.
Yep.
It's makes sense why it goes hand in hand.
The parallels were so uncanny. Like you didn't realize how much the teaching background prepared you to be a realtor. And you think about the best. Think right now, if you're listening to this, think about your favorite teacher you had. Most likely, it wasn't the teacher that was the smartest. It wasn't the teacher that you wrote the most notes. Right? It was probably that teacher that listened to you, that made you really feel like you mattered to them.
Right.
And for me, that was a teacher named Mr. Wells. And so I always remember that. And then when you think about when I transitioned into real estate, I wanted every client to feel that same feeling that I wanted my students to feel, that they mattered to me, but also that they had education and they knew what was going on. And I think that's that skill set that teachers bring, is that ability to make someone feel like they matter, listen, right? So the best teachers were not the best ones at communicating, they're the best ones at listening. Right. And then how do you be part of someone's journey and create impact in their life, right? And I took that right into real estate and applied it into all the transactions I did. And that obviously created raving fans who then referred me to this day, refer me, 20 years later.
Yeah, and that like what an amazing experience and feeling is, with that. I have a transaction that's going to settle in a couple of weeks now with a first-time buyer who, funny kind of anecdote, came full circle. They were living in Fishtown.
Yep.
But I had sold it was husband and wife. I had sold the parents a house. So he's now in his late 20s as a first-time buyer. I sold his parents a house before he was born.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the kind of longevity that these relationships happen, and those kind of things happen over and over again. It's such a fun experience, and that's part of, appreciating that responsibility and the connection that we have from those.
It's
so you start off in a little bit of a kind of like a fair to say like a side hustle while you're still teaching.
Total side hustle. Yeah. I thought, again, I grew up poor, so I had this secure job, right? I worked my entire life to create security. And then, that idea of I went to college for 5 years. I had a master's degree, right?
Right.
And I'm going to leave that to sell houses on 100% commission with no health benefits, no retirement, right? It's almost like this thing that you have similar upbringing, right? Where you work so hard to create security, and I'm going to leave that for the insecurity of real estate. So it took me 3 years before I could sort of look myself in the mirror and have the confidence that it was real, that this was not like a fake thing or a blip or luck or whatever it was. And I'm like, oh, I actually have a skill set that's going to make me really successful. So
that's amazing. So in those early couple of years, what were you building upon? How did you establish the business that you were doing, how you were attracting and securing those initial customer base? Because now it's easy for us to talk about repeat customers from a decade ago. Yeah. But when you're brand new, what were you doing to secure those relationships early on?
So the irony is that the things I did in 2002, 4 years ago now, and is the same thing I would tell someone brand new today who was getting into it, or someone even that's been doing it for 20 years. And the things that I did, I'm actually wearing a t-shirt that says consistency. Yes. I consistently was in the office every single day. I would leave, I finished my school day. I would literally go right to the office. So I chose the office because it was 5 minutes away from my school. And I would literally be in there absorbing information.
Right.
So one of my first goals was I didn't know anything about selling a house. So I just absorbed information. Right. I went in, I met with my manager. I took as many I was an early Buffini guy. Right. I took CRS classes. And then that combined with the word consistency is I started doing certain things extremely consistently. I moved here only knowing 3 people. I didn't grow up in Philadelphia. I grew up in New York. Right. And so I didn't have that high school group or the neighborhood friends and family. So what I needed to do is I started out with the teachers that I worked with, number one, But number two, I did two additional things is I really leaned heavily into open houses.
Mm-hmm.
So what an amazing opportunity that I can literally stand in a house and people are walking in that house who are thinking of buying. It
Mm-hmm.
was an amazing opportunity, right?
Right.
And then the internet, everything was in its infancy, but I dove
Right.
headfirst into technology.
Right.
Yes, technology has changed drastically, but I wanted to be the first one to be using anything that was related to technology. So
Right.
I recognized early on if I combine this human element with technology, I can actually do this much better, faster, and more importantly, I can create a better experience for the people I'm working with.
Right.
Right. So I think
Yeah.
the minute, you think about those early days, like the minute Facebook came out and MySpace, or, all these new things, and like, how can I take this and use it inside of real estate?
Yeah.
And then you apply that to today.
Yeah.
That hasn't changed, but the key ingredient we have to remember is always bring it back to the human element,
Exactly. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So those principles are timeless. And when the day comes that the human element does not matter, most likely will be long gone because I
Right.
truly think that is the thing that's going to persist for a very, very long time into the future.
Correct. I don't think, and I shared in a video I did not long ago, Jensen Wong, I caught a sound bit of him in an interview where someone asked him the question, who's like, it was framed somewhere along the lines of like, who's the smartest person in the room?
Yeah.
And if you watch some like a lot of his sound bits, he's very thought. Like it
Yeah.
reminds me a lot of things that were ingrained in like I don't want to let many words come out of my mouth without putting a lot of thought around them.
Yep.
And like Jensen's like you can see that. And then he said like the reality is it's changed. It used to be easy. It used to be the smartest person in the room was the person that had the best technical skills and knowledge. And he used as an example, like look at computer science engineers.
Yeah.
That used to be a fundamentally extremely valuable degree,
Yeah.
and that was one of the first things that AI, for instance, solved. And
Yeah.
so now that's not necessarily, but what becomes then the more valuable asset is empathy,
That's it.
humanization, right? Someone that can combine, like, knows how to utilize the technical skills through technology that they can solve using technology, but still has the ability to connect at the human level. So I agree. I think it's going to be a long ways before we cross that, if
Yeah.
we ever do, but a long
Yeah.
ways. I think we have other probably more serious issues that'll come first before that ever gets breached.
I agree. Well,
Um,
I think that is one of the challenges that a lot of realtors are facing right now, though, Anthony, is that they feel very overwhelmed with information overload and also paralyzation over what to do. Do I
right,
learn ChatGPT or do I learn Gemini or do I learn Claude or do I learn social media? Right? And all of a
right,
sudden, I have clients who will come to me and they spent thousands of dollars, hours and hours of time learning, and they're ignoring their greatest asset, which is their humanity.
yes,
And so, literally, I'll give them some very simple things. Like, so for example, if you're listening to this and you're like, I need to do a little more business, I'm going to give you a text message that if you want to send this to 10 people today, I bet there's a good chance you're going to generate 10 conversations. All you got
right,
to do is say, I was going through my records today. I came across your name and it made me smile. Hope all is well.
right, yeah,
That's it. Like, or some version of that, right?
exactly, yep,
You send that text message. If you literally either have a lot of past clients or you just want to do it to a set number of people, I can almost guarantee if you do it, to enough people, you are going to do a real estate transaction because it really does three things. The first thing it says to the person, hey, I saw your name and it made me happy. And I just want to let you know that you matter to
yep,
me, right? Like
yeah,
at the core level, that text message does that. The
right,
second thing it does is it creates a safe space for the recipient in the sense that we don't ask, how are you doing?
hmm,
A lot of realtors are coached like, hey, just reach out and say, how are you? I
right,
would recommend no one ever does that. And the reason being is because you're creating a situation where the person either is going to ignore you because they don't want to share, Number two, maybe they're going through something that is like really challenging and now they feel like they got to lie to you because they don't want to like go through it.
Yep.
Or number three, they're actually going to share with you and then it unloads this whole thing that you actually, maybe you just said, hey, I just want to let you know you matter to me.
Right.
The third biggest benefit is actually for the realtor. What we do is we create a situation where you can't create a story about them not replying back because as realtors, we're so fragile, right? Yep. And so you do that. If I reached out to you, Anthony, I said, hey, I saw your name, like, how are you doing? And you didn't reply back to me. Now what does my brain start doing?
Exactly.
Oh my God, Anthony hates me. He probably is upset that I didn't call him back right away. My God, I think I canceled the last meeting on him. And he's probably upset, right? And meanwhile, you're just busy. And
exactly.
You text.
Yeah. Yep. And it's a conversation that I have, constantly. The reality is, like one thing that we've experienced over these last couple of decades, from when you and I started, and I started a little, a number of years before, even when I very first started, we didn't have the internet. Like that came a couple of years later. But what happened was and I saw this on a sound, but I can't remember where it was. But we became equipped, right, with some really great technology and some really great tools that are meant. We actually saw ourselves at Franklin Institute.
Yeah.
We got equipped with some really great tools and resources to make our life easier and to save us time. And all we ended up doing was costing us more time because we're constantly learning new systems and tools, et cetera.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a balance. And it's when we're working on building business, one thing, regardless of technology, hasn't changed, which is simply we need to talk to people every day. If we don't talk to people, we're not setting appointments. If we don't set appointments, we're not writing contracts. We don't write contracts, we don't get paid. Like that, it doesn't matter what technology opens the door, right? It could be, and that's where it gets so noisy, right? When you and I were starting, we could have called someone. When I started, I could have called someone on a phone that was attached to a wall.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
We could have called someone. I could have written a handwritten note.
Yep.
I could have gone to I did a ton of expired door knocks, that was the method, a big winning play for me. But that was about it.
Yeah.
Today, it just extends so much. The number of forms of media is so, and all that does is it creates noise.
It does.
And so now you and I, if you looked at if we compared, email inboxes and text messages, it's scary. Like if we looked into the future 15 years ago, we'd have been thought, this is crazy. I'm not even getting in that pool.
Yeah. You got
it. But here we are.
Here we are. And I think too, we're still relying on email, which is a very, very ineffective way of creating connection, right? Mm-hmm. You talk to most realtors and ask them, how do they market themselves? The vast majority of their efforts are on email.
Right.
And the change you have nowadays too is now the email providers are recognizing that email is becoming irrelevant because inboxes are overwhelmed. So now they're creating boundaries around inbound emails even, where most likely if you're doing email marketing, really look at your stats and recognize the fact that most of your emails aren't getting through to people.
Yep.
So this is where we come back into the importance of CRM. The other thing I did early on to relate it to this conversation is from the very first day, and this was drilled into me by Paul Gallagher, who was my first owner, and then Fran Truax, who was my first manager, the importance of a CRM.
Right.
And that R of CRM is relationships. You need to know who your relationships are. Yes. And I wish, Anthony, that we could do an experiment where I handed 10 realtors, Instagram and social media, and then 10 realtors old school Rolodex.
Right.
And we walked them through 60 days of training and outreach. And I guarantee the Rolodex would produce more deals than right?
Yeah, without a doubt.
It creates hyper-focus on people that you're in a relationship with as opposed to the infinite world of people that don't know you and are just millisecond of attention you're trying to grab on social media, right?
Yeah.
So
there's two groups of people in the world. There's the ones that you know and the ones that you don't know. The ones that you know is obviously a much smaller number,
right.
but the majority of your business is going to come from that group, and that's where the focus of our attention. The rest will organically grow, right? But our focus has to be on that small number. The other thing, just in those early days, right? Like, we know there's only a certain percentage in any mass group of people. And by mass group of people, that's inclusive of your CRM, like your database. That's also a mass group of people. There's only a small percentage of them, 2%, 3%, 4%, maybe in a big year, 4 or 5%, right? That will move in the next 12 months.
That's right.
Which means most won't. And so many agents are afraid to reach out and make contact because they think that they're just being salesy, or they're calling somebody that's not interested, and they're making up that story in their head. So that's like one, just I think, like, behavioral overcoming. But the second thing is like you were saying, open houses. I reference expired listings.
Yeah.
The core part of that story is, if we're going to do business right, because I started like you, I sold real estate in an area that I did not grow up in.
Sure.
I think I mentioned I grew up in Fishtown. I thought it would be cool to live at the shore.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what I did. I didn't have a network, so I counted on open houses, expired listings, right? Just concentrating on and building and growing my network. But the bottom line was, I needed to talk to people and have a system around creating accountability to talk to people consistently, right? Every day to build that business.
Well, and Anthony, the coaching I provide on you mentioned it, the two groups, the people I know, the people I don't know.
Yeah.
A lot of my coaching revolves around the people you know. And the concept I want people to remember is, I think the thing that messes us up is we're sort of taught to lead generate. And then we go to lead generate to the people we know, who we care about. Right. And we actually care about what they think and feel about us. And that concept of lead generation paralyzes us because it does feel salesy and annoying. So the recommendation I have is never lead generate to the people you know. Instead, conversation generate, and challenge yourself to create conversations that are not directly related to buying or selling. Right. So again, I sent, I'm going through my records today. Thought of you. Hey, I was in your neighborhood. I was showing a house in your neighborhood. I drove by your house. Like, I hope all's well. Right. Made me think of you. The other thing I love, and these are just some little tactical tips, ask for help. Like, if you do a newsletter, don't do the newsletter on your own. Don't go to ChatGPT. Text message 20 of your best clients and say, hey, I'm doing a newsletter. I want to feature a brand new restaurant in Philadelphia. Have you been anywhere cool lately? And I would love to feature it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. People love to help.
Love to help. And we don't think that's lead generation, but it actually is with the people we know. Because the people you know, your goal there is just to remain top of mind and consistently be bringing yourself. And by the way, your newsletter does not do that. Your newsletter is important. You want to brand yourself. You want to stay in front of people like that. But it doesn't really generate that top of mind feeling because it's not generating any emotional connection.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's really critical we treat the people we know, the people we don't know differently. Hey, the people you don't know, I want you to lead generate all day, every day to that. Right. You don't know them. You don't care about them. So it's okay. But the people you know, don't lead generate, conversation generate.
It's right. So it's all, you're maintaining relationships.
That's it.
Right. And one of the things a lot of times I'll lead with when I'm explaining that principle is, when you look today, right, because we're in today, the most valuable companies in the world, they're the most valuable because their valuable asset are relationships.
Yes. Yep.
Right. All the technology companies, all their values in the relationship. They're not manufacturing. It's not bricks and mortar. It's relationships that are driving. Like, the most valuable company that handles the booking of stays doesn't own a single room.
Isn't that crazy? I know.
Right. It's insane. Like that. That's the world that we're in. The most valuable. Look at Amazon. Doesn't own a single. I mean, now they've evolved, but from a principal standpoint, didn't own a single storefront.
Yeah, isn't it crazy?
And that's I know. So it's all relationships.
A little bit too, Anthony. Go a little deeper. The people you know, you want to become almost like micro famous right? You're most 99.99% of us are never going to be famous with millions of people. But
Right.
if we can be famous or micro famous with 150 people or
Yes.
200 people, that is where you generate real power, because those 200 people now are my salespeople that are in the marketplace working for me for free, by the
That's
way.
right. They're your
And
ambassadors.
you're ambassadors, and you don't become micro famous by just spamming people,
Yes.
right? Open house listings. Hey, check out my new listing. Guess what?
Right.
They already saw that 3 days ago when it went live on Zillow.
Right.
So if you're sending out emails around your new listings, I would recommend shifting that strategy, or open houses. Like, guys, people know what open houses are available. They just go on an app. You don't
Yeah.
need to be emailing people anymore. Shift all of your emails into building your personal brand and becoming micro famous and providing value.
Right. That's
Simple.
Yeah. That's the foundation.
That's it.
So let's talk a little bit about like as you saw, so growth, not only because we saw growth, like started off,
Yep.
leaned heavily into building a database, centering in a CRM, but also recognizing that you were attracting business from people that you don't know as well.
Yep.
And then you got to a point where you recognized, like, okay, there's some real scale ability here. And
Yep.
and you've seen it, you've done it. I've done it. We talked about that. We also have worked as coaches now for a long time, mentored in different positions of ownership and oversaw. So it's not just the business kind of scale and growth we've seen and experienced, but we've also been a part of, because we've mentored a lot of agents and teams that have done it too. What is that magic pill? Like, what is going from being an agent that's operating at a high level to then being able to make a decision and say, okay, I want to get to whatever I've identified as my next level.
Yeah.
Like, what does that look like?
So the first thing that you want to start to think about is, if when you start to grow, you're going to hit this point where you feel a little overwhelmed, right? Where you're like, oh my God, how am I going to get everything done today? When you hit that point, or if you're hitting that point, the first thing I would advise people do is just take a sheet of paper and you draw a line right down the middle. One side of the paper is going to be the things that only I can do. The other side of the paper are things that someone else can do. Right?
Nice.
And it doesn't mean you may not be at the point where you can hire someone, but you basically want to start to isolate, what are these things? So creating the pricing conversation with a seller. That I'm the only one that can do, not the only one in the world, but the only one in my business that can do that, right?
Right. Yep.
But actually putting the CRM together, someone else could do. And nowadays, even, Anthony, we could even say, could technology do that, right?
Right.
So now we're adding even more wrinkles, where it's either someone else. Can technology do it? Can a virtual assistant do it? Or does this need to be an in-person, right?
Right.
And so when you start to isolate the things only you can do away from the things that someone else can do, you might be shocked at how much someone else could do, or how much technology can smooth it out. And I think most agents, when they're at that point, they're ready to grow, they're so overwhelmed. The only thing they think about is survival. Right? That's the only thing going through mind. Let me just survive through today. I'll get to it this weekend. Well, the weekend hits, and then they work all weekend. And then, it's just this cycle of survival. And it's really critical that everyone really thinks about spending very, very small amounts of time on analyzing what they're doing and could it be done better. Right. And I think that's that stage of growth. When you wake up and you feel overwhelmed and you look at your day and you're like, how can I do all this? That's your sign that you either need to apply technology, hire virtual support, or do you debate in-person support of something, right?
Yeah.
So showing houses, someone else could show houses. Writing an offer, someone else could write the offer. Maybe presenting the offer is you, but someone else could draft it. Scheduling appointments, someone else could do that. Nowadays, I just got Perplexity in my email. It's amazing. For the most part, someone else can actually draft most of my emails.
Right.
I might review them, but they literally can draft them for me. So now
Yep.
I go in, it's already written. I'm editing, boom, out the door. My inbox
Right.
now is almost a zero almost every night because of
Right.
AI. Right.
Yeah.
So my point is, when you feel overwhelmed creeping in, that's your sign that you're ready to scale. That's that point, just the simplicity of this process of a sheet of paper, line in the middle, things I can do, things someone else can do.
Right.
And very quickly, you'll realize where your scale and where the pressure relief is in your business.
Okay. What do you think? So, what's your view on like the economics of that decision? Because sometimes we
Yeah.
get agents that are just they're fearful of taking on a
Yeah.
concern over
Yeah.
the economics of the business. Do I
Yeah.
do I
Yeah.
have the ability to take this person on and am I going to feel confident supporting it?
So when my rule of thumb was 3x, right? So if I spend $1, if I invest $1, I at the bare minimum want to return $3.
Right.
So Perplexity, I'll just use a really recent example. It's costing me, I think it's like $35 a month, and I can easily say that's definitely 3 times the value, right?
Right.
Right. Yeah. For my inbox to be zero, meaning like I'm not missing leads, I'm following up with people quickly. I'm definitely capturing stuff.
Right.
So then you go back into, okay, I'm going to hire a virtual assistant. It's going to cost me $1,000 a month. Well,
Right.
if I invest 1,000, I want to be able to guarantee at least 3,000 on a return.
Yeah.
So roughly that you got to be able to say, by hiring this assistant, I probably can do at least one more deal every 2 months. Depends on your market and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then if I'm hiring a personal admin, that's where we get into like, now you have to, if you're going to invest that much money, you better be able to justify the 3x return, right? Because now you're probably investing 60, 70, 80, who knows how much on that in-person support.
Right.
So that's like, so I generally use the 3x rule. Like, so if you are spending $1, you want to at least be able to justify making 3 times that in
Excellent.
whatever you're doing. So, and again,
Okay.
I'm trying to really press home a lot of things we would hire someone to do. We probably can use technology to do a lot of that right now. If
Yep.
you really dig into the AI stuff that's coming out.
Yeah, totally. That it's a changed environment in terms of
Yeah.
delegation and just being more, cost efficient and
Yeah.
ultimately profitable.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, that's a key component to longevity in this business.
Correct. You got it.
So being like in consistent with like time respect, talking a little bit about community and how important like that involvement is, and having, like you mentioned, you like going to the office, like surrounding yourselves. I like to say is like protecting our mind, right?
Yeah.
And protecting like the keeping ourselves in a mindset where we're going to stay in alignment with the promises we make to ourselves and the commitments we make within our goals. How important is community as a part of that, and what do you do to protect it?
Yeah. Well, it's so funny to talk about this because currently, depending upon when this launches, my community, the With Heart Coaching Collective, will be live. And when I think back to the beginning of my career, I went into my office partly for community. Nowadays, that doesn't exist for the most part because of COVID, lots of factors.
Right.
But so one of my goals is basically to recreate that office environment virtually, right?
Okay.
Where that feel of walking into the office, seeing my friends, asking for help, getting support, giving advice, learning is all recreated in a virtual environment where
Yes.
we're all sort of helping each other. So that idea of collective is huge. So when, as realtors, it's a very, very lonely business of what we do. And I think that idea of community makes us feel like we're not alone. When you hear someone else going through the same struggle you're going through, it makes you feel like, okay, I'm normal, right? It makes you feel like I'm not crazy. And the corresponding, as a teacher, I know this, the impact you can have in learning and education and achievement when you're in a community versus when you're isolated alone is tenfold. Like I actually don't believe that realtors learn from recordings because the vast majority of realtors are ADHD or diagnosed or undiagnosed, right? Or we have tendencies around it. And for us that have that, affliction, or you have tendencies around that, when you put on a video, almost always you're going to find something more urgent to do after 5 to 10 minutes of that video.
Right. Yep.
Right. So I believe that there has to be a combination of community, connection, and not in person live, actual in person. That's great, but not possible to scale.
Yeah.
But actual virtual worlds where we are actually in person and we're working together, right?
Yes.
Helping each other. And I think that's, Compass, I think, did this extremely well, right? Like when you walk into a Compass, or when you get onto a Compass call, you feel like, oh my God, these are all my colleagues. Like even if we're in California and, other places. So the other companies I was, I think
especially during COVID, that was, and it's funny. I heard Robert on a sound bit on a podcast not long ago where he talked about, and he framed it in a way that I really kind of like connected with. He said that we live in a world where technology kind of deceived us.
Yeah.
Right. It led us believe that we had stronger relationships than we actually do because we've lost a lot of that connection and community.
Yeah.
And so seeking out opportunities where you can be connected to people that are like-minded, that are going through the same everyday battles that we're going through, together can learn to improve their own skills, whether that means scripts or dialogues or navigating this, incredibly complicated and wonky market that we're all working through. Like all that helps build and resonate and so that we continue to grow.
Agreed.
That's a whole nother and then the other thing that I got out of that was focus. We don't. I believe firmly we don't have a time management problem. We have a lack of focus problem.
Agreed.
As an industry and as a society.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, and Anthony, take that. I actually believe we actually have a cell phone notification problem. We don't have a focus problem. We actually have a notification problem, which you can solve simply by turning off all your notifications on your cell phone. Because you said, I agree with you, we have a focus problem, but that focus problem is actually being created by the notifications on your cell phone.
Yes.
Right?
We got to dial in the focus. Well, that could go on. Listen, that could go on for forever. I am immensely grateful that I think there were a couple of huge takeaways that last part early on, recognizing that we got to be talking to people that we don't know. The line on the piece of paper on what can I do versus what can either AI, or what can be delegated to was amazing. So much here. I know we're going to do it again. But I can't thank you enough for being for sharing this time with me and with us.
I appreciate it so much, my friend. Great job.
Yeah. Have a fantastic and powerful rest of the week. Look forward to seeing you down the line at the next event. But from a contact, I'll have some contact and ways in the comments as to how to get a hold of you and find you. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Cannot wait. Thank you.
All right. See you, buddy.
Bye.